938 Live. This is Talkback.
Now, the Singapore Armed Forces, or SAF, has relaxed the obligations on members of its new volunteer corps. Not only can volunteers opt to switch roles midway through their stint, there is also no minimum period of service that they'll be required to commit to. Previously, the SAF had set a 3-year floor. The number of days that they can be expected to be called up each year has also been slashed by half to 7 days. In addition, the mandatory 4-week training that volunteers will have to undergo before they are deployed has also been made more flexible. Recruits get to choose between attending modular courses on weekends and in-camp training. And trainees who are not able to take the rigor of these sessions will be allowed to drop out. Now, what do you think of the changes? While flexibility might mean that a wider pool of volunteers would be encouraged to step forward and serve, are the terms too flexible? Now, many people have pointed to the fact that volunteerism across the board is coming with more flexible terms to encourage more to come in and do the work. You've got ad hoc volunteer programs where you can just go in, do it one time, and then come back with no other commitments. And this is what voluntary welfare organizations, non-governmental organizations are already doing. But what does it say about us if we can't commit more time and effort to volunteering meaningfully for anyone? Should a greater level of commitment be required of SAF volunteers? Would you be reluctant or unable to commit more? Some have said their employers are not so flexible. If they tell their employers, boss, give me extra time off so that I can go and volunteer, do something meaningful for a change, rather than just sit at my desk, would your employers be open to that? Give us a ring, 669-11938. Talk to us also on Facebook, official 938 Live.
Now, applications actually opened on Monday for the inaugural batch of SAF Volunteer Corps scheme. It's targeted at women, new citizens, and first-generation permanent residents between the ages of 18 and 45. And training is going to begin in March next year. Now, volunteers can choose to serve in wide-ranging fields in the land, sea, and air forces, from operational deployments such as auxiliary security trooper to professional roles such as engineers, legal specialist staff, and doctors, alongside regular soldiers in active units. Now, the SAF, of course, plans to recruit from about 100 to 150 such volunteers over a year through 3 recruitment drives. So tell us if this is something that you would very seriously consider doing. How much time and energy are you willing to commit to serving your nation as a volunteer in order for the experience to be meaningful to you as well as for the nation? Now, what are some of the hurdles you might face in committing more time to volunteering? Give us a call, 669-11938, or you can start talking to us, of course, on Facebook, official 938 Live.
Joining us today is Commander of the new SAF Volunteer Corps, Colonel Mike Tan. Now, Mike, what really are the objectives of the Volunteer Corps?
Thank you for having me this morning. The objectives of the SAF Volunteer Corps is to provide more opportunities for new citizens, Singapore women, and first-generation PRs to come forward to serve, to give of their time, so that they can deepen their understanding of what it means to defend the country and give a stronger support of national service.
One would think that in order to fulfill those objectives, people would have to be a little more committed.
We think that when a volunteer comes forward, he comes out of his own volition. He has to plan his... he has to come forward out of his own volition. He's got to have the right motivations. And we are encouraging more people to come forward, and we believe that we have the right balance for them to do so.
Okay, why is this the right balance? Because I understand that originally, for instance, the SAF had set a 3-year minimum period of service. What was the thinking behind that, and why did you have to change it along the way?
The original 3-year minimum period was an option that we explored. But when we delved deeper into the formation of the policies, we consulted 40,000 people. Through conversations and also through focus group discussions, we discovered that actually the minimum period of 3 years we didn't need that minimum period of 3 years. People were committed to come forward and they wanted to give their time, and we believe that with the training and the subsequent deployments, they would find it meaningful enough to want to give of their time in subsequent years.
Well, if we think about the amount of time that, also based on the fact that there is no minimum period of service required, is that an indication of commitment at all? We want to know from you. Call us on 669-11938. Now, what were the reasons for them to say that a 3-year minimum is not necessary? I'm sure there were other reasons aside from the fact that even if I volunteer for an hour, it doesn't mean I'm not committed.
Of course.
But I think it says something if you only want to volunteer for an hour as opposed to more time.
Yes. Now, let me preface this by saying that the SAF VC and national services are entirely different constructs.
Of course.
National service is the cornerstone of our national defense. We're just talking offline just now, and we were saying that, I've met Andre before in a national service situation.
Yeah.
And also, it's
most
entirely
men have
different.
met each other,
The expectations and the training that we have given to the national servicemen, the honor the recognition that we have given to the national servicemen, entirely different construct altogether. The SAF Volunteer Corps is meant to encourage these people to come forward, and we believe that the SAF Volunteer Corps is a serious and important commitment. We want to make sure that individuals who step forward are the ones who want to contribute to serve and be a part of national defense. The absence of a minimum period does not dilute that commitment and the gravity of the decision.
But if they are not able or they are reluctant to commit, to what extent do you think it does say something about their level of commitment in general?
We think that with serving, you will deepen your purpose, and you will find that with more training, you want to do more. We are confident about that.
Okay, so that is the hope. Do you think it will work? Call us on 669-11938. I asked you earlier about what reasons the people that you surveyed gave for not being able to commit more time. Can you expand on that? What were the reasons?
We spoke to people from all walks of life, women, working, as well as students, post-secondary school leavers. We're looking at a very diverse lot of people. They have not had national service experiences before. If I were an 18-year-old young man, finishing my A-levels and embarking on a new life altogether, I know at the back of my mind that I'm looking forward to national service. There's 2 years of my life that I will set aside to serve my country, because I've lived in this environment. I've enjoyed the blanket of security that national service has provided me.
Right.
And I've grown up in this environment. We need to find what it is for the SAF volunteers. This is an entire new construct. People are not aware of norms. There are none to start with.
So what did they say was their reason, or were there various reasons?
I'll just quote one, for example. A woman said, hey, look, if you didn't give me the 3 years, I would still serve. I saw that 3 years is not necessary for more people to come forward. We would like to encourage more people to come forward to give of their time, because we believe that when they do that, their belief and their insights into national service will deepen.
One would think that if you actually got feedback, like, even if you didn't tell me I have to volunteer for a minimum period of 3 years, I would do it anyway.
Yes.
Then there's no reason to inject flexibility into the system, is there? Considering that some of the feedback you got came from people like that who said, 3 years is nothing, I'd do it anyway.
Yes, that's true. Now, I think that by not having a minimum period of 3 years, we are encouraging more people to come forward. It is a very serious commitment. I think for someone to decide to make an online application, to make that decision to commit to time, is already a very serious commitment, and I think that's enough.
Right. You are going to be expecting to recruit about 100 to 150 volunteers.
Yes.
Now, as they come in, what would that criteria be for you to shortlist them?
Okay, so there will be medical criteria. We will subject our eligible. First of all, there's an age criteria. We are looking for volunteers from the ages of 18 to 45. We will ask them to undergo medical screening. That would then determine whether or not they are medically fit enough to undergo the potential training that we are about to embark on. And then we are looking at attitude. I think the interview that we will have will then determine the motivations of the volunteer.
Will they have to indicate their commitment levels as well in the application?
They will have to indicate what roles they want to undergo. And in my interview with them, I will ask them, it is important that we ascertain that the volunteer that comes eventually is someone who is committed and not taking this as a flippant decision.
Okay, so what are the various reasons that you might not put in as much time as someone else into volunteering for the SAF? We want to hear from you, 669-11938. We've got YM Cheong joining us now. Hello, good morning.
Yeah, good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Gentlemen.
Yeah.
I just want to give a strict reminder. At this point in time, please do not train up a terrorist. That's all. Thank you.
Please do not what?
Train up terrorists.
Okay.
Okay.
Point taken. I'm sure everyone
Mr.
would
Cheong.
agree with you there. William joins us now. Hi, William.
Hi, William.
Hi, good morning to all.
Good morning.
Yeah, okay, my comment is that I do not understand why our government had actually put the army as an option. They actually can put SGDF, teaching, or even hospital services as an option for volunteer corps to serve their national service. My personal view is that this is very sensitive. You know, you put a new citizen into a sensitive post or sensitive position in the army is more like a national security is in danger.
Okay, let's
Okay,
talk
William.
about the
Thank
various
you.
posts available, because indeed there are professional roles as well.
Yes.
But also let's address William's concern of putting new citizens in some of these more sensitive posts.
Okay, so second generation PRs are already required to serve national service.
But this is open to first generation PRs
Yes, it
too,
is.
right?
Yes.
And
Now-
new citizens.
And new citizens as well. Now, the children of new citizens also have to serve national service. They are already in the system. We value their contributions all the same. Now, as with all roles in the SAF, we are talking about the defense of the country. There will be a need to have security clearances. Now, it is the same for volunteer, regular, national servicemen. We will all have to have the necessary security clearances. And so that will be the first level of check to ensure that we do not train the wrong people, or we let people into areas or informations that they are, not secure to have. With all information, even after security clearance, the SCF has a very strict protocol on a need-to-know basis. So if you do not need to know, then we will not afford we will not convey the information to you.
Okay, but then all posts are available to all people, regardless of whether they are first generation PRs or new citizens, right?
Yes.
It is based on your security checks and background checks.
Well, there's medical, there's interview, and there's security.
Okay, well, is that satisfactory enough? Call us on 669-11938. We'll talk to you right after news and sports. Stay with us. Thanks for joining us on Talkback on 938 Live. I'm Bharati Jagdish with Andrea Chak. Now, the Singapore Armed Forces, or SAF, has relaxed the obligations on members of its new volunteer corps. Not only can you opt to switch roles midway through your stint if you choose to be a volunteer, there's also no minimum period of service that you'll be required to commit to. Previously, the SAF had set a 3-year floor. The number of days they can expect to be called up each year has also been slashed by half to 7 days. In addition, the mandatory 4-week training that volunteers have to undergo before they are deployed has been made more flexible. Now, some might argue that flexibility is good so that more will be given a chance to get a taste of what being a volunteer is like.
Yeah.
But also, shouldn't a greater level of commitment be required? I mean, what does it say about us if we can't commit more time and effort to volunteering meaningfully? Is this a case of perhaps your employer is not being flexible enough with you? Perhaps you prefer to watch several hours of TV instead of volunteer. Give us a call, 669-11938. We're also joined today, by the way, by the commander of the new SAF Volunteer Corps, Colonel Mike Tan. Let's see who's joining us now.
All right, we've got Carla on the line. Hi, Carla.
Hey, hi, good morning to you.
Good morning.
I'm very passionate about this topic, being an ex-SAF officer. I'm just wondering why the age limit is kept at 45, because I think we beyond 45, we can contribute, even might not be physically there. But is there any possibility that we can contribute some administrative or based on our own profession? For example, I do kind of training, adult education for adults. Can come in to contribute in that perspective.
Now,
So,
Carla, you said you were you are an ex-SAF officer, right? What
Yes, I
made
do.
you want to join the SAF at that time as a woman?
Oh, okay. One of the reasons, because to be very honest, I was very active during the school days, and I love challenges in life. So I wanted a kind of different kind of job scope, which is not very routine based. So I think I believe I made a right choice, because Army is one place that actually grooms me to be mentally, physically, and emotionally a strong person. And today I owe my credit to Singapore Armed Forces.
Okay.
To what I am today.
Okay, we'll address the issue of 18 to 45, that age limit, in just a moment. But I'd like to know what you think about some of the issues that we have brought up. All these flexible obligations, the flexible terms for the volunteers. Do you think it's too flexible? Should we expect more of volunteers in terms of their commitment?
I think that is good, because it's the first step of exposure. I think we have to start somewhere. I think the initiatives are good in terms of exploring their flexibility rather than visiting the whole process. So I think the move is good. And
to make it flexible, yeah? You prefer the obligations to be flexible?
Yes, flexible.
But
so that
why?
you can actually have... sorry?
But why do you think more people can't be more committed to volunteering in a way that might be even more meaningful than if, there were all these flexibility options coming through?
In today's context in Singapore, we are so carried away with our own cars, and we hardly put aside all this time frame for these tractors, because it carries a very minimum weight. And I think this is where we can actually qualify who is really very committed in doing volunteering. Then we can selectively choose the people who want to come forward, rather than just giving them some perks. I think shouldn't come with perks, because I believe when you start giving perks, everybody will start coming in. So I think perks shouldn't be equated with volunteerism. It comes from your heart.
Okay,
you do it out of your passion.
Thank you very much for that, Carla. Carla actually feels the flexibility options are okay, give people a taste. She also mentioned perks. Now, before we talk about the issue of perks, I do understand that they will be given something, but it's not really perks. It's just enough to get them by, maybe an allowance, or what is it exactly, Mike?
We recognize that people who come forward, women, PRs, new citizens, they are a special bunch of people. They are not required to, but they come forward out of their own volition. So we will be giving them a allowance. It is a flat rate allowance to defray incidental expenses. However, that said,
do we know how much? Have you determined how much that allowance will be?
We are not going to say how much it is going to be, but we have already determined that. Now,
okay, they're not going to say, but if you're going to be a volunteer and you find out and you want to tell us, go ahead and tell us. Go ahead, sir.
So, as your volunteers who are working, who have careers outside, Singapore women who are successful lawyers, for example, or executives, having careers, will be entitled to make-up pay. This system of the make-up pay is quite similar to the system that we had for NS men, which will compensate a volunteer that comes forward and gives of their time by giving him or her the salary that she would not otherwise receive as a result of not being in the company for that specific period of time.
Okay, now before we get to how we can encourage more employers to do this and address Carla's question about the age limit, why are the allowances, the rates for the allowances, so secret?
We don't believe that money is the motivation. There's if a person wants to volunteer, then the money is not the motivation, and therefore it is our policy not to dwell too much on the numerics, basically. Okay,
let's talk about the other numerics, 18 to 45 age range. Yes. Why do you have that? Carla says that she's older and she still wants to be able to contribute in an administrative capacity, perhaps.
Okay, I've not met Carla before, but she sounds like she's very fit. We thought that 18 to 45 would be a good recruitment range, because we're going to draw all of them in and all of them will be trained. So we really do require some level of physical fitness and medical well-being.
Yeah, and but then a 60-year-old could be more physically fit than a 40-year-old.
Would you consider applicants on a case-by-case basis?
After we train them, we say you're a 45-year-old volunteer. You come forward and you be trained. We still will be able to enjoy your volunteer services and your time for at least up to 50. 50 is our statutory age. So if we have somebody who is coming in and a little bit older, we'll subject and we'll consider on a case-to-case basis. But as a policy, 18 to 45 is what we're going for.
Let's go to our next caller.
We have Keng on the line. Hi, Keng.
Yeah, hi.
Thanks for holding on.
Yeah, it's okay. Hi, morning.
Good morning, Mr. Keng. Go ahead.
Okay. Actually, my question was, one of them was like what Carla just said, why only restrict up to 45? You see, like I think you also mentioned that some of them may be fitter, 60 may be fitter. And the other thing is that those older, they may have more time, which it will relate to their more time to volunteer this thing. I think probably the SAF want to reconsider this. The other question is that why only restrict to first generation PR and new citizens? Why don't open up to those citizens who have served NS and not necessarily they have to go back to their own unit to serve. They can be serving what they are best at now because they have been working, say, for the past probably 30, 40 years, which they got these skills in the private sector which they can put to good use in the SAF.
Okay.
I mean, this is what I think.
Thank you very much,
Well
Mr.
said,
Kung.
yeah.
Let's let Mike Tan respond to this. Colonel Mike Tan is commander of the new SAF Volunteer Corps. What do you think, Mike?
Mr. Kung, sir, I salute you because of your commitment and your enthusiasm. I've met people like you, and I'm always energized by that. Now, actually, other than, because you're already an NS man, I gather, you can come back and serve because there are other volunteer schemes in SAF MINDEF. There are 4 others, for example. We have people who are national service full-time, who voluntarily extend their national service before by a year, by half a year. This is active. And we've got people who are NS. When they finish their in-camp obligations, 10 years, they continue by being a rover. That's reserve on volunteer extension of reserve service.
That's right.
So we also have people who want to serve beyond that, and when they hit 50, they become SAF volunteers. And these are people who are of all ranks, continue to serve the SAF past the statutory age. So, and last but not least, we have an expert conversion scheme that allows these people like Mr. Kung to come forward and offer their expertise as an expert.
Mike, it occurs to me that perhaps the SAF needs to do greater outreach so that people like Mr. Kung would be more aware of the various options available.
Yes. Now, we just had our launch on Monday. So you saw the media, and we have begun a recruitment. So this is day 3 of our recruitment.
What about the other volunteer schemes that you just mentioned?
The volunteer schemes are already available, and they can be found on the MINDEF webpage.
Okay, maybe greater outreach, because obviously some people don't know about them. Thank you very much, Mr. Kung, for raising that. Very quickly now, let's go to Mr. Tam, our final caller for the day. Hi, Mr. Tam.
Hi, good morning, everybody.
Good morning, sir.
I definitely welcome the move by SAF to remove the minimum 3 years volunteer period. I think that would attract a greater pool of volunteers to come forward.
But Mr. Tam, don't you think that people should come forward anyway, even if there were a minimum period of 3 years? If they were committed to a cause, a 3-year period wouldn't be a problem for them to come forward. Do you think perhaps too much flexibility is not that great either?
I think having flexibility in the system is important, but I think I want to raise a point that maybe the SAF may want to consider having a minimum period of, say, not 3 years. 3 years to me, I think is a bit excessive, but perhaps 3 or 6 months, because this is actually a very important decision. And if the volunteer actually, if there is a minimum period for the volunteer to consider, then at least it acts as a natural screening process, and the volunteer.
You said 3 to 6 months. How did you arrive at that particular figure, Mr. Tam? It appears we have lost Mr. Tam, but he does say he thinks flexibility is okay. In fact, he said it's a good idea, but a minimum 3 to 6 month period would be better in terms of maybe getting the right types of people in. What do you think, Mike?
I still think that if a person wants to come forward and serve, the absence of a minimum period does not dilute his or her commitment. That minimum period is not necessary.
Okay, then one might say that, if you tell people that you can come in for a day, you can come in for 5 days or whatever, you might get a lot of people who are just coming in to check things out and then check out quite quickly. So you might end up wasting resources on someone who really isn't that committed to begin with.
Which is why we have an interview, and this interview will seek to determine the readiness of the person, the aptitude, the attitude of the potential volunteer. Which
is that enough? You can call in on 669-11938. Talk to us also on Facebook, official 938 Live, because we are running out of time and may not have time to pick up another phone call. However, Mike, there are certain trends that we have observed in the world of volunteerism in general. Some have noted that young people do tend to be more involved, and then volunteerism dips once people become preoccupied with their careers, with their families. They come back to volunteering when their children have grown up or when they retire. And I suspect that even though you couldn't really identify why some people might be unwilling to put in more time, I think a lot of people that I've spoken to have already expressed that I just don't have time to volunteer, or so they say. You know, work commitments are heavy, my family's commitments are heavy. How do you think more, though, can be encouraged to volunteer, whatever stage of life they're at, especially since you did say that volunteers can be compensated for the day that they didn't go into work, and if they had to take unpaid leave, for instance?
We think that volunteers and volunteerism will increase with purpose. If they understand that there is a need for national defense, then there will be more volunteers coming forward. So we are also reaching out to employers. We're speaking to them, and they are not unused to the idea of having employers from Singaporeans coming to in-camp trainings and things like that. But so far, the volunteer applications have been very encouraging. We've had a busy day yesterday and the day before, and
so you're going to definitely meet more
we're
than
going to
your
meet
target.
many people, yes,
and more than your target.
We're going to make sure it's not so much the target that we are worried about.
Right.
We want to make sure the right people come forward to be trained and to be engaged and to experience what it's like to serve alongside our national servicemen.
Now, experts have said that it's important for even the volunteers to be assimilated into the military culture.
Yes.
How else will your engagement with volunteers be made more meaningful over the years?
When we train the volunteer, we expect the volunteer, when ready, to be deployed alongside national servicemen, not to be deployed among volunteers themselves. They assimilate by going on patrols, by going on missions, doing training together with national servicemen. I'm talking about medical training, but and in so doing, they embrace the military ethos.
Okay, well, I'm glad that you are reaching out to employers. If you're listening in right now, tell us what you think can be done to encourage employers to perhaps manage their staff better, so that those who want to volunteer can be given perhaps even more flexibility in their work schedule to do so. Talk to us on official 938 Live. And many thanks for all your phone calls today. Many thanks also to Commander of the new SAF Volunteer Corps, Colonel Mike Tan. By the way, applications for the SAF Volunteer Corps are open. Just go to their website for more details.